It's another podcast for your ears to consume. You can play it in the background while you clean your room. It's funny and wholesome with relatable guests. The host isn't famous, but he's doing his best. And now it's starting. The podcast is starting right now.
Hi, welcome to Too Hot in the Mic,
the only podcast where the guest is always hotter than the host.
It's not the host is hotter than the guest?
No, that was just the last one. Tiffany was mad about it. Today I have the illustrious Gabriel Lipton. Gabe is a comedic writer, actor, cinematographer, editor, philanthropist, and Baylor Bear. Just list off some of your credits.
Comedic writer, actor, writer, editor,
Egg, fellow Egg Party member.
I do. I'm not a very good cook. I can't cook.
No.
Actually, I can. I don't like to. But in a pinch, I can cook.
Yeah.
I make movies. I direct things. I like improv.
Wow, the credits go on and on.
Yeah.
And so, tell me a little bit about that. No, literally, tell me a little bit about all those things you like. Just a little bit about each one. Yeah.
Okay, a little bit about comedic writing. I do most of my writing on my computer. A little bit about editing. I use Adobe Premiere.
Is that also on the computer?
Also on my computer. Okay. But a different computer. I don't write on the same computer that I edit on out of spite.
Yeah.
Improv, I do improv on stage often. Directing is often done behind the camera. Some people like to direct in front of the camera. I find it distracting.
I can't see anything.
Like, who's this character in the story?
Hey, why is his back
Why
in front of the camera?
Why does he have like a walkie-talkie and like he's wearing a polo shirt? But yeah, that's a little bit about me. But tell me about you, your credits: podcast hosts, comedic writer, philanthropist, actor,
also Baylor Bear.
Also recently a figure artist.
Yes, I actually did just start taking a figure drawing class, and I kind of slayed.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can show my pictures on camera because I am drawing a naked person.
But from behind.
Yeah, sure.
You can show a butt in a PG movie.
I guess so, but it's like, I don't know if I have their consent to show an image that I drew of them to random people. You know, that's kind of interesting.
But that's how good it was, is that this woman could identify herself from your drawings.
She'd be like, that's me.
Yeah.
I guess our credits go on and on and on.
Yeah.
A lot of people can say that. And so let's go back a little bit.
Okay. Let's go back.
Well, let's go forward real quick.
Okay.
Let's be at the present right now. So today, this day and age, when you meet somebody for the first time.
In 2023.
You say, hi, I'm Gabe.
Yes.
How else do you introduce yourself?
Well, actually, I do. My name is Gabe.
My name is Gabe. Okay.
Well, because if I just say I'm Gabe,
yeah,
it's happened before. I go, I'm Gabe. And they go, excuse me? I go, I'm Gabe. And it's not that they have a problem that I'd be saying I'm gay. It's just an interesting way for me to start a sentence. Say, oh, they're like, hi, I'm Brian. I go, hi, I'm Gabe. I have to really say the B, just
Gabe,
so they know that I'm saying a name and not stating my orientation.
Sexual orientation. Yeah.
So I say, my name is Gabe.
My name is Gabe.
That's how I start. I say, hello, my name is Gabe. And
why don't you just say Gabriel?
Because I don't like going by Gabriel.
You don't like going by Gabriel?
It's too biblical. And look, hey, to each his own. But Gabriel, that's the other problem. I'm Gabriel. It's just a mumble.
So
it's
you say, my name is Gabe, and then how do you introduce yourself?
I say, hi, my name is Gabe. Well, who am I talking to? Like if I'm at the doctor's office and they're like, what's your name?
Yeah, you're talking to just another person who works in the creative industry.
Okay. Oh, so like, hey, what's up? Like, I'm John.
Yeah, hey, you gonna do the role play?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm John.
Hey, what's up, man? I'm Gabe.
You're what? Oh, sorry, I didn't hear the B.
I'm Gabe. My name is Gabe.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you do?
Oh, I'm just here getting a drink.
No, like, what do you do for work?
Oh, I work in sales. It's kind of my day job, but I'm a comedian.
Yeah, you have to say comedy. Oh,
I'm also a comedian. I do
Oh.
comedy.
I do comedy.
Mostly sketch and improv. It's like the cool kind.
Yeah, none of that.
And then they go, "Oh, you like Joe Rogan?" Or like, "Oh, you like Theo Von?" I go, "Yeah, I know about yeah." But I don't do that kind of comedy. I do like sketch and improv.
Yeah.
And they
They're
go,
like,
"What's that?"
What's that? Yeah, what is
Yeah,
it?
I go, it's you ever seen like Whose Line Is It Anyway?
And those are the questions we're actually going to answer today.
Yeah.
With today's topic: how to get into comedy.
How to get into comedy.
When did you first want to get into comedy? Posture check.
Oh, thank you. When did I first want to get into comedy? Mm-hmm. My family's very funny. They make a lot of jokes, a lot of goose, a lot of gabs. We're Jewish. I think it's sort of a, I don't know, I couldn't say it's a Jewish thing, but there's a lot of joking around.
You could say
To
it's
deal
a
with
funny,
yeah.
funny culture.
Sure. Yeah. Hey, the Jews are funny. No, but for real, my family has always been very funny. My dad's just a goofball. Mm-hmm. All my brothers and sister, they're always looking for the joke, looking for the witty remark. So that was definitely a part of it, was just growing up around people like that. You learn.
Your dad was a pastor.
He was a pastor.
Wait, is that what they go by? And
In that one, yeah.
In
pastor.
Methodist?
No, evangelical.
Evangelical.
The fun one.
The fun one. So he goes by pastor. So
He doesn't now. He's not a pastor anymore.
no, okay. So
I still call him Pastor Dad.
father, pastor, dad.
Father, Pastor Dad.
But there's like an element of like performance in your life where you're watching
Oh,
your
yeah.
dad put on this kind of show
Sure, yeah.
where like he's up on stage telling stories, getting people energized,
Yeah,
probably
yeah.
cracking a few
And
jokes.
I was like, I want to do that.
I want to do that, but
Without all the Bible stuff.
so niche with the Bible stuff.
Yeah, no, that's part of it. Well, my whole family is very artistic. Both my parents were actors as well, and everyone in my family's done acting. Everyone in my family writes. Everyone in my family is a musician. So it's all there. But I was like the youngest. I was kind of like a little, oh, look, we got another one, baby. And my parents were already pretty old, and everyone else was way older than me. So I wasn't neglected, but I wasn't exactly given a lot of like specific direction. I was given a lot of direction about the Lord Jesus Christ, but I was not given a lot of direction like, hey, what else do you want to do? So I was kind of left to my own devices to like pursue whatever kind of interested me. And so what was there was like music, film, or camera. Like I was basically just like copying my siblings for the first several years of my life. So that's like why I started making movies, was because my brother was making movies, and started playing guitar because my other brother was a musician, and started acting because I didn't have any friends and I needed a different community to try to find friends in. That was my mom. She was like, let's find you a group.
Yeah. Let's send you off to Shakespeare
Yeah, let's
camp.
give you another shot at this.
I had a kind of similar experience. My mom and my grandfather were both youth leaders. My mom was like 5th grade down, was like the head of all of the like church youth. And then my grandpa and my grandma like did 6th through 8th grade. And my grandpa was just up there killing, telling these great biblical stories. He'd make up his own material. Like he'd be like, I remember this one, kind of iconic. He did this lesson about the pine bark beetle. It's like this specific beetle that lives in pine trees and like slowly takes over. And he had this whole thing written out, and he was just killing. He was crushing. And so I think church performance, honestly, I was like, this is great. This is what I want to do. And I thought for a while I was going to be like in ministry or something like that, because I wanted like that performance aspect.
So comedy was like percolating. I always loved it growing up. Like I was very into stand-ups, and I was very into like comedy film. Like I really loved comedy, and I loved in my own like friend groups, like just making jokes all the time, doing bits. I never thought about it as like a career until later, but in high school I was definitely very interested in comedy, and I went to a private classical school that was like really difficult. I worked way harder than I ever did in college or grad school. It was so hard. But we had to do like a thesis project at the end of our junior year. And so I did my thesis. It was also a Christian school. So I did my thesis about why God has a sense of humor. And it was mostly just an excuse to learn more about comedy from like a scientific perspective. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to see if I could like crack a code and be like, why do we laugh? Like, what's up with this?
And you did it.
I cracked it. I figured it out. But yeah, so I was like making an argument that the whole gospel message is a joke, like in a positive way, because it's like the whole idea is like, oh, I'm going to use the weakest, like I'm going to send my son to Earth, but he's not going to be like a king. He's not going to be like what you'd expect. He's going to be born in a barn. Like he's going to be like a carpenter, dirt poor. Yeah. Like that's the thing I'm going to use. Like that's funny.
Yeah.
That's
Would it be so
opposite.
funny
Wouldn't it
if
be
the
so
son
funny?
of God was like a poor little
Like
boy?
born in a barn. That's funny.
That's funny.
And Jesus was always cracking jokes. It just gets lost in translation. Like the rich man. It's easier for a rich man to go through a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. That's a joke.
That's just
They would have laughed.
They would have loved
at
that.
the time. Like it's hard when you're reading it. Like doesn't seem funny. But if you gotta imagine being like, listen, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven. A camel's huge. Eye of a needle, very small.
You gotta imagine.
These are jokes.
It's him and 12 guys. They gotta be cracking.
Oh my God, they're cracking jokes all the time. Another good one. There's a whole story where this guy's walking down the road and God's trying to get his attention and he's like just not getting it. So God lets his donkey talk and the donkey tells him, hey man, pay attention. God's trying to tell you something. Like the donkey talks. So literally like an ass delivers this message for God. Like it's funny.
It's fun.
Funny stuff. And that's how I knew that it was okay for me to go into comedy.
Because God's funny.
Because God is, and I had to justify it because everything I had to do was for God. So I had to find a way to go, well,
Yeah.
God's the funniest of all.
Yeah. Then you're like, parents can't be upset with you because you're
Yeah.
like, hey, I'm doing this for God.
Read my thesis. I proved that this is a good path.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to today.
Uh-huh.
If a scale from 1 to 10, if 1 is you're just starting off in comedy, and 10 is, hey, you're the biggest comedian in the world. on what number are you on the path right now?
Logistically, like on paper, probably like a 2. I'm not a 1. I've
Yeah.
started.
Yeah.
But I feel like 10 is like Mark Twain prize or whatever. Like the whole country's like, we got to give this person a medal.
Yeah.
Because they're so funny.
They proved God was funny.
Like Obama's there. Like everyone's there to cheer you on. So if that's 10, I'm not 9. Because
No.
that's almost there.
Yeah, not 9.
I'm not 8 because that's almost there.
Yeah.
I'm not 7 because that's where I feel like most of them are.
Yeah.
Like if you know a comedian who's famous, I think they're 7s.
Yeah.
6 is people like who's that guy, tall guy, he performs around Austin, he's a stand-up but also he does like online sketch comedy. You know who it is.
I don't.
Tall, white, skinny guy, talks like this. I don't know if he talks like that. Trevor, come on.
I don't know.
You guys know who I'm talking about, right?
Hey, drop a link to Trevor down below.
He does all the things.
What are you
You
talking
know.
about?
What's one? He does
And this guy's a 6?
he's almost a 6.
I've never even heard of him.
Exactly. That's 6. 5 is like featured player on an SNL.
Wait, the guy we've never heard of?
Yeah. More
Is
famous
6?
than the featured player on SNL.
Why?
Well, think about it. Who's the featured player on SNL right now?
Michael Longfellow.
So this one that you can't think
Devin
of.
Walker.
Okay.
What's the girl's name? I don't think they go they them. Oh, I don't know their name. And
Exactly.
then-
That one.
Yeah.
That's 5.
That's 5.
Because you're on SNL. But we don't know you yet.
Oh man, if that's 5. We're way lower.
I'm a 2. I think you're a 3.
All right, let's go 4. What's 4?
Well, 4 is right above you. So 4 is like, who's that guy on TikTok who's always like, he does the sketches like, I'm the kid you don't like.
Oh, like people who just like do one character on
Yeah,
TikTok
but
and
they've
have
got
like
like millions.
800,000
yeah.
followers.
That's 3.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you're 2. You're like, and it's weird because
Well, that's 4.
that's 4. So you're 3. Okay. And it's not, you'll notice it's not about who's funnier because you're funnier than 5. You're funnier than 6.
You think I could be like, I have the potential. Like,
This is
to be
what's
6.
important. So
Yeah.
logistically, I'm a 2 and you're a 3. Now, in terms of comedic potential, I think we're both 10s.
I think we're both 10s. I think we're going to be getting that Mark Twain Award together.
Absolutely.
And so today's podcast is really for the ones out there,
This is for all the ones, the 0.5s.
the zeros. You have not taken your first step And so what we're trying to say with this is that we are not experts
No.
in any way.
I'm a 2.
He's a 2. I'm a 3. I might be a 2.75. Let's be honest. So we just want to maybe talk about some of the general pitfalls of starting in comedy and just some resources about like, hey, if you're really about to take your first step, this is what we would recommend to help you learn. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Does that sound fair?
Is that all right with you guys?
We're literally trying to help you.
They don't get it.
Please.
It's okay.
So let me check out my highly organized file. Do you think that's funny?
That's good.
Let's leave it in. One more disclaimer. Everything we say, there's probably going to be a popular example of the exact opposite.
Sure.
In the sense of, we might say something like, hey, for general practices, like in improv, you may not want to do this. And be like, well, I've seen online the most famous improv comedian do exactly that. And I want to say that, yeah, comedy, there's exceptions to all the rules.
There's a million ways to do everything.
And usually whenever you're doing an exception or you're breaking the format, it comes at a point in your career where you have a lot of craft and you understand the basics so much, then you can mess with it. So don't get mad at us because you're like, I see comedians do this all the time. And it's like, yeah, well, they've been doing it for a long time and they're playing around with it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally.
If you break it too early, then you didn't get to have fun with it at all.
Unless you do and it works.
Unless you figure out some
That's the point.
kind of crazy format and it just kind of
This is
slays.
just our perspective.
That's true. Actually, I take back everything I say. Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. This is what we do.
I'm just saying, don't get mad at us.
Just don't get mad. Stop getting so mad at us.
Okay? If a big comedian does the opposite. We're just 2 and 3s.
Yeah, so
Stop
just
twisting
relax.
our arms. Okay, so let's talk about maybe the 4 pillars. The
Four pillars of comedy?
The 4 pillars of starting on comedy.
Okay.
In a general sense. There's so much more. Like, you could be a writer. I didn't even put that stuff on here. But I just want to talk about improv, live sketch comedy.
The 4 pillars, yeah.
The 4 pillars. Improv, live sketch comedy, online content, and stand-up. These are just some topics that we have a little knowledge. And it's not like... If you wanted to be like just a comedy writer, we do not know.
Not a pillar.
Not to us.
Not a pillar. Clowning, not a pillar.
It does not pay.
But improv.
But improv.
Improv pays.
Oh, you can talk about some clowning and some improv.
Oh, I will.
I'll give you a free reign. Okay, let's start there. Improv.
Improv.
What do you think? The benefits?
I enjoy it. No, I think improv's really cool. I really like improv. I think improv's the best. One of the best things we've figured out as human beings, which is funny because it's so bad a lot of the time. So it's not like watching improv as a form of entertainment. Scale 1 to 10. As a form of entertainment, improv swings back and forth. It's either a 1
or a 10.
Or a 10. And if it's in between, it still feels like a 1. It's like, oh God, like it needs to be pretty good to be entertaining. Or 0. 0's entertaining again. So as a form of entertainment, improv can be kind of hit or miss. What I think improv is really invaluable for is I think it's like a really strong foundation for like every other art form. And especially in comedy. Like a lot of good comedians have the ability to improvise. Yeah, let's talk about that. So, what is improv?
No, first of all, I'm going to cut you off for a second.
Yeah.
I totally agree that it's like the like fundamental, I think, foundation of being like, hey, improv is going to help you with any other aspect of comedy you want to get into because you're making it all up and you're going to make up all of comedy. Yeah. Am I right?
Absolutely. Also, just life in general. One of the things that's really cool about improv is it's being recognized more and more for its usefulness in like childhood development. So like there are people who go around to high schools like teaching improv, and like studies have been done, we'll link to the studies below, of the effects that teaching improv to young kids has on their social development, on their performance in school. Because basically what it is, it turns communication into a game with like rules that you can learn. that if everybody is playing by those rules, you're off to the races, baby. Mm-hmm. And it's really cool. Like even just a small example of like one way that improv really helped me socially once I started like learning the rules. And I wasn't trying to like improve socially on purpose with improv. I was just learning improv in college, like, and I started to realize like, if I start applying some of these rules just to my general life, it'll probably have some benefits. One of the biggest ones being like, everyone knows like yes and, like someone tells you something in an improv scene, you accept it as reality, and then you add to the reality. Let's give them a quick example.
I'd be like, oh, excuse me, ma'am, here's your milk you ordered.
When I ordered this milk, I was hoping someone like you would come. You did. And now I want to invite you into my house for dinner.
Hey,
so I accepted the reality.
That's great. Oh, sorry. I was sorry. I was
got
caught up in
I was like in the character,
accepting reality that I was going to say, I'm going to go in for dinner. I'm hungry.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a basic yes and, right? In conversation, what a lot of us learn to do unconsciously is negate each other, kind of be obstinate. And I think it's because it's easy. It's like being social is already kind of uncomfortable. So your brain, I think, kind of goes to the thing that is going to be the quickest to keep you like alive and perceived as a normal human being in a social interaction. So if I'm having a conversation with Lucas about like, a movie, it is easier for my brain to just do the opposite, just to disagree with something he said, because it's as simple an equation as he said X, I say not X. It's just negate the thing that was said to me. That's a really easy social formula. And you see people do it all the time in conversation. Even if they don't necessarily have that opinion, they'll just fall into it naturally. And so I caught myself at being very, like, kind of consistently obstinate, like looking for, like, to have a conversation, like you make a point, I poke holes in the point. I make a point, you poke holes in the point. Terrible way to talk. Way better to be positive, yes and. Like, that's just one example, right? Mm-hmm. But that's like, that bleeds into everything in life, not even just comedy.
Okay, so now that we've talked about the importance about what it can add to your life, let's talk about like maybe some of the logistics of taking your first improv class or getting started in improv.
Yeah.
So there is online resources to learn improv. So you don't have to live in a major city. But does it help?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Totally.
Doing it in person is always going to be preferable than doing it online.
What started for you? Where was the first improv step for you?
I did improv in high school. So I think that's an opportunity for a lot of people in the theater department. We started doing it. Our teacher did not really know much about improv, didn't do it a ton. And so, but we just had a lot of fun playing with it. And then once I came to college, Gabe was already in the improv troupe. And I was like, oh yeah, I definitely wanted this to be something I still pursue, because it was like the comedy outlet. Nobody was doing stand-up. Nobody was doing sketch comedy even in college. So improv seemed like, oh, this is what you do if you want to do comedy. So that's where I got started. But then after college, a couple of years go by, I did it during school, and I was like, well, I don't want to take a level 1 improv class. I thought I was kind of high in my idea. I was like, I don't want to do it. But then the pandemic happened. You remember that? It was like this long thing.
Oh, the plandemic?
Yeah. Oh, the plandemic? Yeah, I heard of that. So during that time, I was like, hey, the Hideout here in Austin is offering some online improv classes. And I was like, I'm not doing anything. This will just be a fun activity to do once a week. So I started taking those online classes. I took the first 3 levels online. And it was actually kind of great to actually have a formal improv education and see the building blocks as they get built. And be like, oh yeah, learning it in this order would have been helpful.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I had a similar experience where I was definitely learn by doing and then learning the actual rules and structure behind it later. I think there's value to both. I absolutely agree that a lot of time was wasted trying to figure it out without any support that would have just been skipped if we'd had some support. So in college when we were in this improv troupe, no one was teaching us how to do it. We were just kind of doing it and trying to teach ourselves after each scene. Okay, that was funny. I feel like maybe you said no here. We knew the basics, but it was sort of we were trying to play basketball without really knowing how basketball was played. And then eventually took basketball classes. And they were that's double dribbling. You can't do that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, if you actually shoot back here, you get 3 points.
Yeah.
That's
It's like,
crazy.
oh, you guys are fouling each other all the time. It's like,
Yeah.
So like learning the rules, because kind of what improv kind of is like writing on your feet. It's taking the principles of what makes a good written comedy piece and breaking them into, like, basically reverse engineering them into rules so that you can create a scene very fast without having to consult with each other. So if you look at good improv, it follows the same bones as like written sketch or, just written work. And what makes it funny is the fact that it's happening, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, it's like the feat of it becomes what's entertaining, because at a certain point people are doing it as it feels like they've written it. And it's really impressive, but then it's also very funny to see what people come up with on the fly. Yeah, it was the same for me. Did it in high school, like at random things. Like, I feel like you do it at like youth group, or like you do it at like in the context of being in a show, like a theater show. It's like a warm up. And then, I just remember being like, oh my God, this is so fun. So funny and goofy. And I think for me too, did you ever play like imaginary games as a kid?
No, of course.
I loved them. I was the last one to stop. I was 15. It's like, you guys want to play World War II? Like, I think we're done.
Yeah, it's like, hey, we just learned about World War II in class. I don't think we should be playing that anymore.
I was very reluctant to give it up. I was very sad that it was over. So then when I found improv, I was like, wait a minute. It's not over.
Wait, I can play World War II
In fact,
all the time.
if I'd known these rules when I was 10, oh God, our games would have been so much better. So that was it. Like, if you're at a 0, it's probably, and you want to go to a 1, it's probably because you've recognized that being funny, laughing,
Getting
surprise,
to be silly.
very enjoyable human experiences.
Yeah.
Arguably some of the best. And rightfully so, you've probably assumed that, oh, if I can make this part of what I do, maybe I'll get a sense of fulfillment from it. And you're right. You will. It'll fix everything.
Like it did for us.
Yeah.
So, wherever you are, if you're even in a small town, just look to see if you have a local improv class, because doing it in person is really fun. It gets you out of your body, and like you get to start building a community of other people who are like-minded or who want to do the same thing that you're doing. I think you'll be surprised that a lot of these even smaller towns do offer classes. I know like our friend in Amarillo who's about to do an improv intensive, and he's like, yeah, I've got like a full class of like 20 people. So there probably are people in your local community who are wanting to do it.
Yeah. Here's what's cool too, is like part of what I think makes improv foundational is that learning improv is a really useful way to get over the fear of being creative. Because there's a lot of fear attached to creativity, unfortunately. It should just be a thing that we all do. Like at a certain point, making art of any kind became too wrapped up in commerce, like too wrapped up in making a living, that it got a little twisted. And it stopped being something that we just do naturally as human beings, the same way like birds sing. Like, they're not singing to be good.
That's beautiful.
Well, yeah, it's true. Like, it is a part of nature to be creative. But when it gets too tied up in kind of Western ideals, really, of like being good, achieving, those things get tied together, and all of a sudden being creative can become a scary thing because it's full of judgment, mostly self-judgment of like, is this good enough? What's annoying about that is like, it's one of those things that when you break it down, it's like vapor. It's like, good enough to who? To every person who's ever lived? Like, that's an impossible standard to ever hold yourself to, that your comedy is going to be good enough for everyone. So good enough for who? Like your friends? Like your local community? Ultimately, it's good enough for you. If you can figure out how to get over the fear of your own self-judgment, then you can start really being creative and enjoying it, as opposed to it being like torture. And I think improv is really good at creating a space where you can confront that discomfort, because you're with a group of, especially if you're taking a class, you're with a group of people where when you mess up or you fail, like your concepts of failure, nothing bad happens. Truly nothing bad happens, because you're all there to do that. It's literally baked into the curriculum, is like, we're going to make you look silly. We want you to look silly.
Yeah.
We want you to mess up. So it's just a way of like confronting that fear and realizing like, oh, that's not a big monster. Like it's a little baby.
Yeah, it's a little baby.
I could beat a baby.
Yeah, and not to be like so like personal development YouTube channel right now, but like I think there is something about being bad at the beginning that's enjoyable because getting better is enjoyable. You know, like so like being bad or being at stage 0 is like a good place to be because you get to have so much fun, and so much of improv is so fulfilling whenever you start doing it right. I wish I could have those first moments when we start doing long form stuff and you do a good long form scene and you're like, I feel like God right now. Like I feel like
feels really good.
I feel like on top of the world.
Yeah.
So just know it's a good place to be because the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
And it feels good to climb the mountain.
Either you're going to be bad right away, which is where that's great. But also, if you're good right away, that's fun too.
Slaying the class. Everyone's like, oh, I want to be Robbie's
Oh my
partner.
God, this guy's naturally good at improv. Have you heard of the thing like Cringe Mountain? Like
No.
needing to climb Cringe Mountain? It's this idea that like anytime you do anything new, you're going to not be as good as your taste. Like chances are you want to do it because you enjoy it as a form. So if you want to learn improv, or you want to learn sketch, you want to learn stand-up, it's probably because you like those things. You have favorite stand-ups, you have favorite sketch. So your taste is here.
Yeah, you're looking at the best, of the best.
That's what you consume is the best. You probably don't consume anything else because it's unless you're looking for it, you only get the best. So that's your taste. When you start, you're all the way at the bottom of this mountain. So climbing Cringe Mountain is this idea of like, it's going to take you a while to get up to your taste. So you have to take that judgment out of it and just recognize like, you're not going to make stuff that you like for a little while. So if you go in with those expectations, it makes it easier to bear. Yeah.
That was Caroline. I told her we were like doing this episode and Caroline was like, well, when you get to the part about making online content, just like say like, it's okay to be cringe, you know, like
you're going to be cringe.
and you can take away those videos later, but it's like, just get them out, you know?
Yeah.
All right. I feel like that's a good reason to do improv. Do you guys get it?
You guys get what we're saying, right?
Like it's fun and
It's fun. You'll really have fun.
uh-huh.
You'll conquer your fear.
You'll potentially meet people to do this journey with.
Community. You'll learn social skills. They'll just get baked into you.
Yeah, that's true. You'll be better at your day job, honestly.
You will be better at your day job. You'll be better at your day job. Even if you like, or like
Show your manager this.
Yeah.
You'll be better at your day job if you do improv classes.
Yeah. Like, yeah.
And I'm sure, as we'll say, as we talk about the other categories, we'll keep coming back to improv, being like,
Yeah.
hey, this will be so much more fun and so much easier if you're doing improv at the same time.
Yeah.
So let's talk about sketch comedy.
Yeah.
You ever heard of it?
Oh, I've heard of it.
You ever heard of Saturday Night Live?
Just not whoever that person was on.
Yeah,
It.
what is her name?
bad for her.
I can only think of Maggie, but I'm thinking of Maggie, Garrett's friend.
Yeah.
That's not her.
No. So what?
Marcelo?
The shell?
Marcelo is another guy. I can think of all three guys. I feel bad.
That's
I know.
We're gonna talk about being canceled later.
And this is an offense worth it. So
sketch comedy.
Sketch comedy. And we're talking about live sketch comedy, which is kind of its own thing. And it's kind of a stranger / trickier thing to get started and get into. Because where are you going to do it?
That's a good point, Lucas. You need to find a place to do it in order to do it.
It's probably hard to imagine a small town where you're like, hey, is there a theater that I can put on this sketch comedy show?
Yeah.
That's probably a hard sell.
Yeah, it's a little tougher to do live sketch comedy, and that's something that we're still experimenting with. But yeah, sketch comedy in general, like I feel like most people, their introduction to sketch comedy is like, I don't know, what would it be? For me, it was like actually more like YouTube. Like I was definitely like a child of YouTube.
You loved Shane Dawson.
Oh, boy, did I smosh. No, I was watching like Good Neighbor stuff. They ended up on SNL. This group Barats and Beretta, but just like random like sketch. Neil Cicierega. There were a lot of like content creators on YouTube that I loved, and it's really what I wanted to do from a young age. Was like, oh my god, is this a job? Like,
Yeah.
can I make funny videos online?
Exactly. I loved Balloon Shop.
Yeah, Balloon
I
Shop.
love those guys.
Absolutely.
And I was going to talk about them more in the online content section, but I understand like this is their first like understanding what sketch comedy is. And I think the only way I saw live sketch comedy was through SNL.
Yeah.
But they're still having the benefit of cutting and camera work and all this stuff. So the very first live sketch show that I saw probably wasn't until 2 years ago.
Yeah. Same for me. I was really into British sketch comedy, actually. My family's really into House. Did you ever watch House?
Is that the Doctor?
Yeah, Hugh Laurie.
He's British?
Hugh Laurie is British. Hugh Laurie is a very famous British comedian. And he's so good at acting like an American doctor that everyone in America was like, I didn't know that.
So the show is American, but
Yes,
he's British.
he plays an American doctor, but Hugh Laurie is a famous British comedian.
I'm all caught up.
Yeah. And so I loved House. And also my whole life I've always been someone who like, if I like a movie or a TV show, like I want to know everything behind the scenes. Like I want to know how they make it. So like I always consume like a lot of like DVD extra material, you know? So I was really into House, loved Hugh Laurie, found out like, oh my God, wait, Hugh Laurie has had this whole other life where he was doing sketch comedy.
Where he was British.
Yeah, he's this British guy. So there's this show, A Bit of Fry and Laurie. They were also like around the same time as like Monty Python. All those guys were all kind of like in the same circle at that time. It was filmed, but it was on a stage. And so that was kind of my introduction to like what live sketch comedy could be. So my kind of like, I think sketch taste when it comes to live comedy, you could see this like in what I write versus what everyone else in the group writes, is very like dialogue driven, like characters having silly conversations, because that's a lot of old British comedy is either like odd, like absurdist, like physical comedy, or like, you know, Monty Python's like the dead parrot sketch where it's two guys arguing about whether or not, you know, we can return this dead parrot. So like that really shaped my live sketch comedy taste. But yeah, I think the first live sketch thing I saw was when we went to LA and saw like Please Don't Destroy and all those folks.
Did you ever like go to like a Christian summer camp?
Yeah.
I thought about what you were saying. That I was like, oh, wait, I feel like I saw sketch comedy whenever I used to go to summer camp, and like there would be like a comedy sketch church team, and they would like do little skits and stuff. Yeah. So I have seen, I guess, some live performance. Yeah. Stuff like that. But yeah, Please Don't Destroy was the first hour-long sketch comedy show we had seen, and we're like, oh yeah, okay, we could do something like that.
Live sketch compared to digital sketch, like what do you like about live sketch versus digital sketch?
Well, I love the theatrics. Both of us being theater majors, I love being on stage and performing the thing once, you know, and this is it. And this is feeling the audience there, live reacting to it. It like helps you gauge, you know, the reaction way better because you know exactly what jokes they're laughing at. Yeah. Instead of, you know, we post videos online, some people might comment like, you know, when people just comment.
I really like this part.
Or they just put it like the exact line.
And then like a skull.
Yeah. It's like, okay, that part works.
Okay.
But what about the rest of the video?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just a very interesting thing that exists, but it's like, how do you start doing it, you know?
Yeah.
Even for us, we came to Austin. We were doing improv shows here. We were making online sketch comedy. And then we got offered to do a show. Yeah. So we're like, hey, do you guys want to do a sketch show? And we were like, hell yeah.
We'll figure it out.
We'll do it. And so we wrote it and we performed it and it was great. But if you are out on your own, you can write sketches.
Yeah.
Always be writing.
A, B, or W.
You might meet people if you're taking an improv class.
Yeah.
Like improv class. You might find people of similar comedic taste and you can start like producing live sketch.
But it's hard. It's hard to even like for us as a group to like do it. It's just trickier because it's like it's more practice for something that you don't know will work until you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Like when you film a sketch, it's like, you know, it just takes as long as it takes and then you put it out and it's done. With live sketch, it's like, all right, here's the idea. Let's hone it in and rehearse it. And then we'll get it up in front of them. And I hope it's a lot more prediction. Like you need to be able to kind of predict what'll make people laugh. So it makes it trickier in that way, but it's also satisfying in that way to kind of like figure out like, yeah, what makes someone laugh. And that's what it comes back to, improv again, is this idea that like fundamentally, if we're having fun, they'll probably have fun watching it. Like if it makes us laugh, someone else will laugh. And I think that's something you hear in comedy all the time is like, yeah, write it for yourself in a way, write it to your own taste. And surely there will be other people who have a similar taste to you. Mm-hmm. And that does end up being true because we're all living in the same world. We're all having similar experiences. And I think we're a lot more similar than it seems, even on the surface.
So if I was at a 0, my advice would be just start writing a sketch. Whenever we were in college, we never had an opportunity or thought about putting on a sketch show, but we were writing sketches. Mm-hmm. And we were always pitching each other, hey, what do you think about this sketch? Even if we were never going to film it or never put it up on its feet. I don't know what else to say other than like, I think you should pursue it, but just know that the performance opportunities may not come until later down the road.
Yeah. I think starting with improv before sketch makes a lot of sense because all these ideas for anything are coming from your subconscious. They're not, sometimes it feels like it's coming from like something more deliberate, but it's something inside of you that comes out and then you catch it or you notice it and then you develop it. So Lucas, I know, has had this experience where like, if you make a habit of like looking for those ideas as they pop in your head and very importantly, writing them down when you get them, you get more. It's probably just that you're training your brain to notice it. And so you notice it more. So just start writing down things that you think are funny and then you'll get more of those kind of ideas. And every now and then one of those ideas just feels like a sketch idea. And then if it feels like a sketch idea, you take that one and then you do some improv with it, and then
cast your friends,
and then go perform it.
Yeah. So let's, I guess, move on to online content.
Yeah.
Where you can actually make a sketch and put it out there.
Yeah. Right now.
Right now, you can do it today.
Yeah.
And I think we come back to Cringe Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
It's okay.
When you start making online content,
probably won't be very good.
It's probably going to be...
According to you.
Bad. According to you. You're maybe going to look back on it and be embarrassed. And we're trying to tell you that is okay.
It's okay, and it's also like important. So just like do it quick.
Yeah, do it quick. Bust out 10 videos in 10 days. No, I'm just kidding. But like get your reps in and be okay with being bad. You're already being very courageous. Honestly, comedy is vulnerable. You're putting something out that you're like, hey, is this funny?
Yeah.
And you might get 0 feedback. You might get crickets back. And so that takes courage. Yeah, whenever I first started making content, I've privated all those videos.
Do you remember why you did it?
I was doing the editing job, and they had the idea that they were like, hey, like what if like we made like a kind of like a community of like, hey, even our editors, our producers also are like making content. Mm-hmm. It was always my dream. I was living like a shadow career where I was like editing for somebody doing what I wanted to do. And I was just like you. I was watching sketch comedy and videos online. I was like, I want to be doing this. I want to be doing this so bad. And so I started making my own stuff. Very quickly got fired in the pandemic. And I was like, well, I've already started. And it wasn't until like my 14th video that it got like a little popped off. Mm-hmm. It got like 30,000 views. And I was like, and then I got the bug, the clout bug. But no, it was like, it was therapeutic in a sense. I was doing the thing I actually wanted to do. And so it was a big relief. Mm-hmm. But it did take a while for me to figure out my style.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. I think part of what stops people from doing it is first recognizing why you want to do it. If you're not thinking about it, then you probably don't want to do it and you can move on and you're not even watching this podcast. If you're still listening and
if you've been waiting for this
if you've been waiting for us to talk about this part, then you want to do it. There's something in you that wants to do it. And there's something else in you called resistance that's trying to keep you from doing it. It's easy to rationalize the resistance as being like good reasons. Mm-hmm. And there's all sorts of reasons you can come up with. Not even you. Just your brain comes up with reasons for you not to do it. Because ultimately your brain just wants to keep you safe. and normal and stable. If you've been doing something a certain way for a long time and all of a sudden you want to try a new thing that's like kind of scary and unknown, your brain is absolutely going to try to stop you from doing it regardless of whether or not it's good or bad for you. So first, just recognize like the reasons you don't want to do it are probably bad reasons.
Yeah.
They're just fear. It's just fear-based reasons. But they feel very real and they feel very scary. So the first thing I would say is like recognize that like part of why you want to do it, I think, is like on a human level, it's good for us. There's a good like Nick Offerman story where he talks about like why he chooses to be creative, and the way he looks at it is like when there is something like that in you, like you want to do woodwork or you want to paint or you want to do improv or you want to make sketch comedy and you're not doing it, it's like toxic in your body. Like that's how he looks at it. It's like there's something toxic in my body that I'm allowing to build up, and to break up that toxicity, you go do the thing that you want to do, and it breaks it up. It makes you feel better. Like as a person, it's like working out or like eating healthy or drinking water. Like it's that important to like who we are. So that's a good enough reason right there. Even if you're like, oh, I don't want to be like center of attention. Like I don't want people to think I think I'm all that. Just do it. Don't show anybody. Just make it just to get the toxicity out because it's something you are agonizing over and you want to do. That's reason one.
I know for me, to combat that resistance, it is kind of tricky. Like, I feel like this is one of the ways my brain was rationalizing not doing the thing, but it was also gave me like a way in, was the fact that I was like, I'm not knowledgeable enough to start, which is like a huge problem. Like, oh, I just don't know about enough to start. But it was a process of learning all those things that finally gave me the confidence to do it, because I just kept learning. So whenever I was setting out to make online content, I knew how to edit, but if I hadn't known how to edit, I probably would have used that as a big reason not to do it. And if you don't know how to edit, we both edited on Adobe Premiere. And how did you learn to edit?
I started making movies when I was like 7. So here's what I was going to, here's what to do. If you were like Lucas, you're like me, where part of the rationalization is I'm not ready to do it. Like, I don't have enough knowledge. I don't have enough skills. Like, and those are very compelling. Like, if you don't know how to edit, that's a pretty compelling reason not to start a thing. Like, it feels overwhelming. Here's what you do. It's easy. It's the way you learn anything. You just copy someone. It's like this thing that I think people, especially if you're at a 0, you think it's like wrong. It's not. The idea of like originality, it's just it's a myth. Unless you are trying to plagiarize someone, you're not at risk of plagiarizing. You know what I mean? Like, if your intention is to just learn a thing and you see someone who's doing it the way you want to do it and you imitate them, you're not going to plagiarize them. It will end up being something unique to you because you're a unique person and you're going to bring your own things to it regardless of anything else. It's just going to end up being original anyway. So don't worry about that. This is how we learn to do anything, even as kids. We just copy someone who's doing it the way we want to do it. So if you can get over that mental block of like, oh, but that's like cheating or something, like, it's not. That's how everybody does it. Find someone you like, imitate them.
Yeah, I was going to recommend something very similar, which is like, there was these YouTube channels, Indy Mogul. Did you ever watch Indy Mogul?
Sure.
And Film Riot?
Yeah.
So like, these are these people that are putting out filmmaking tutorials about how to do like special effects or like practical effects. And so it's like, find one that you like and then like shoot it in your own way. Yeah. Or like follow the fun in that sense. These people, you're not even copying them because they're actively trying to give it out to you. Yeah. So even if you feel weird about what Gabe says, you can watch these people and be like, oh, this person wants me to do this shot.
Yeah, but also notice what they do is they go, we're going to recreate this shot from this movie.
Oh, yeah. It's like,
that's what they're doing.
This is from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, this is a shot from Raiders of the Lost Ark. We're going to make it with our stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it's just the way people learn how to do things. So ditch the narrative of like, oh, I have to make something unique or I have to make something original. And that's actually what I really like about TikTok now that I thought was bullshit at first. Like, before I got into TikTok, I had a very like, I bought the anti-hype of like, what is this? What is this app? It's ridiculous. Lip syncing, everyone copying, a trend. Like, it's not art. You gotta, that was me. And then I got massively addicted to it. And I was like, actually, I see the value in this. And it's not because I was rationalizing my addiction to the app. I was like, actually, this is really useful. But what I came to really like about TikTok is that it really is basically destroying this notion, sometimes in a bad way, but I think mostly in a good way, destroying this notion of like, you have to be completely original. It's like, no, creativity is just a part of who we are. I think it's awesome that now these tools are available to like everybody if they want to do something that you and I have wanted to do since we were kids. You know, back before it was as easy as it is now. It's like make online content. It's really, really fun. It's very fulfilling. And now anyone can do it. And the only thing stopping you potentially is your fear of copying other people. Jump on the trends, baby. Just start there. It's a great way to learn.
Yeah.
And eventually you'll find your own voice.
I was going to say, like, we learn to edit, and like the high production we do is because it's fun for us.
Yeah.
But that's something we like worked up towards. There's a lot of TikTok videos we just made with the editing in TikTok before it was good.
Totally.
Before TikTok editing was better. And there's CapCut, there's iMovie, there's things you can do on your phone that you don't need this. But if you wanted to learn Adobe Premiere, YouTube is the only resource that you need.
You can literally learn anything.
You can literally learn anything on YouTube. If you have a specific problem with Adobe Premiere, just go Adobe Premiere, how to do this, and there's 5 videos on it.
Yeah.
So the resources are there if you want to learn, but you don't have to.
Yeah.
You can just jump on the trends. You can do whatever. Just start.
Just start. And believe me, I don't like that. Like, I'm a big scared of starting guy, 100%. So another thing you could do, like, is it's one thing to like recognize that, like, oh, if it really is this easy, then I guess the only thing stopping me is something deep.
It's me.
It's me. So then it's a new resistance is like, well, now I need to go to therapy, I guess. I need to figure out, like, if it's easy enough for anyone to do it, then like now my new challenge is like figuring out why I can't do it. Maybe. But something that I've done, again, improv, is recognize the kind of cheat codes in yourself. Because you do have some deep trauma probably that's keeping you from exercising this creative muscle. I know I certainly do. So what I found is like, there are hacks. Everyone's got little hacks of like, well, I can't do it for myself, but I love doing it with other people. That unlocks it for me. Something that is hard to do for myself, I enjoy doing with other people. And I still get the creative muscle exercised. So find what you can do. If what you think you want to do is too hard for you, figure out something you can do and do that. Don't agonize over the fact like, I still can't start. It's probably that you maybe set the wrong bar for yourself to start. Pick something you can do and build momentum, because you'll get little victories. And those little victories will build the confidence to then get to the point where you can do the thing you were scared of. Which is exactly why I ended up moving in with Lucas and all these bozos. Me and Tiffany were having that experience when we were living in Spokane and they were all living in Austin, was we were watching them get over it. We were watching Lucas climb Cringe Mountain, and we're in our apartment going, God, he's really doing it. It's not even that cringy. It's kind of good. Like, and people like it, like it's working out. We had all the skills. I knew how to, I went to grad school for film. Like I had no excuses for not doing the thing I wanted to do of making online sketch comedy. It was all internal personal reasons and personal fears. And I didn't get over them. I was trying everything. It wasn't until I just accepted that, like, I think the thing I need is to just be around people who are getting over it, who are climbing Cringe Mountain, and I will attach myself to them with their permission. Like, hey, I'm gonna attach a little hook to your backpack. I'm just gonna be behind you. I'll be working. You're not dragging me up. I just need to know the connection is here, and then I can climb Cringe Mountain so that if I fall, you can. And that's the experience. So if you're someone who can, maybe that'll work for you. Find someone to share it with.
So yes, I totally agree. Find anything that gets you started. Yeah, makes you just start and that you can do.
And don't be ashamed to recognize what you can't do. Just admit it. All right, I can't do this yet. Like, I don't have the confidence. I don't have the experience yet. There is something you can do. Even if it's just like literally. So like for Tiffany's a great example, my wife. Flash forward, she's starting her new job at VaynerMedia in like a week. Cut back 7 years ago, bitch was too afraid to even admit she wanted to be funny. And she's the funniest person I know. Like I really think it is her dream to be a comedian. And it took a while, accept that that's what she wanted, and accept that there were things holding her back that were mostly just fear-based. But she wisely started with things she could do. So when she was doing TikTok way before I was, and she was just making trends. She was just like jumping on trends and being silly, goofy. And that was the starting point. So like, don't think you're above that. Mm-hmm. It's okay. Just start exercising the muscle. Don't jump. I'm a big workout guy. Don't jump straight to the barbell.
Yeah.
Get on the little guys.
Get on the little dumbbells.
Don't go to that 50-pound weight. Start with the 2-pound weight.
Yeah, get a little.
There's no shame in that.
Flexing it. Yeah, start stretching.
Not only is there no shame in it, you'll be doing a good thing because you'll be inspiring other people who are like you, who also want to do it and who are also afraid to do it. Just like Lucas did with us.
Yeah, I think I'm like I'm the other side of the coin in the situation where I love starting things. I will start anything in the drop of a hat. But to keep up with things is such a huge problem for me. And I think the resistance in my life uses new opportunities to get me off track. And so say you've already started making online content, keep going. That's all I have to say to you. I wanted to stop and do different stuff all the time.
Well, what part of you felt like you wanted to keep going? Because you never stopped wanting to do it.
Yeah.
There was always something in you, right, that wanted to do it even when you were veering off or falling off, right?
Oh, I think you really nailed it with that Ron Swanson.
It was Ron Swanson, not Nick Offerman.
It was not Nick Offerman. But the idea was there was times where like, I got so busy with work. I was working on set. I worked on like a season of television. And I wasn't making TikTok. And I felt that toxicity start creeping in. And I tried to like do other activities to get out of it, but it was always still there. It wasn't until I started remaking content that I felt like myself again. So yeah, if you're on the path and you're feeling good, stay on the path. Yeah, is my only advice, I guess.
Yeah, I think there's when I was in high school with this ethics teacher that I really, really liked, one of my favorite teachers, and he would always finish his lesson plan early, which was great because he'd finish class in a half hour, and then the last half hour I'd be like, all right, what do you guys want to do? You want to talk about something, or you just want to like work or not work? I don't really care. He was like so old. It was great. So every now and then after a lesson, we just like ask him questions. So I asked him, I was like, what's like a piece of advice that you give to like your kids? And he was like, oh, I've got it. And he went to the board, and he was terrible at drawing. He draws a train engine on the board. He draws a caboose, and he puts on the engine actions and on the caboose feelings. He goes, people think that your feelings drive your life, that you need to feel a certain way before you do something. It's the opposite. Actions drive your feelings. You know what to do. Everybody knows what to do, unfortunately. And don't act like you don't. It's in there.
You know.
It's that little voice or that little feeling, that intuition of like, I should really brush my teeth. I should really, I should go take a walk. Like, I should eat something. It's that little voice. And for bigger things like this, like, I should make TikToks. There's something inside you that is telling you what you want to do. And we let our feelings convince us that we don't want to. Feelings are only supposed to last 90 seconds. Did you know that? Found that out in therapy. Only supposed
They told you that?
Yeah. They're only supposed to last 90 seconds. We know they don't.
That's crazy.
They last much longer. And there are techniques for, like, getting over that. But the idea is that, like, feelings serve a certain function. They're not supposed to be as important as we make them. And just look at anything. Like, if there's a person you're crushing on, been friends for a while, you flirt, you like them, you want to tell them how you feel. You really want to tell them how you feel. If you wait for your feelings to be right to do that, you'll never tell them because it's very scary to do that. You'll always feel scared. You'll always feel nervous, fear of rejection, all that stuff. So if you're waiting for the right feeling, you'll probably never tell them. That's just one example, right? This is what they teach people in like the army or like EMTs too. They teach them how to override their feelings because your feelings tell you don't run into a burning building. If you're a fire person. Fire person?
Yeah.
If you were a firefighter, I like that they already had kind of a gender neutral term.
Yeah, they're firefighter.
We're all fighting it. If you're a firefighter, they teach you how to override every instinct in your body, which is saying, don't run into the fucking fire. Don't run into the fire.
You're allergic to fire.
You're allergic to it. You'll have a big reaction. They override it. They do it anyway. And what happens is your feelings do kind of a funny thing where they go, well, he's running into the fire, so I guess we got to give him Give him different feelings, give him confidence, give him bravery, like give him this. Your feelings will adjust your actions. So when it comes to this, fear of creating content, or like this feeling of like, oh, you haven't done it in a while and you start to feel the toxicity build up, recognizing that moment that like, I'm feeling this actually because I've stopped acting. So these feelings are creeping in. So if I don't enjoy these feelings, I know how to get rid of them. I just got to act. I got to do the thing. And then my feelings will come along, which is really hard to do, but it's all you can do. Because you can't control your feelings in that way. If I put a gun to your head I say,
be happy.
be happy or I'll shoot you.
I'd be like, I can't.
Yeah. And then I'd shoot you. And now I'm sad. But if I put a gun to your head and I say, cluck like a chicken.
That's an action. I can cluck like a chicken.
So,
and that changes my feelings.
Yeah. And now you feel like a chicken.
I feel great. So we know you're out there.
We know.
You're sad. There's toxicity coursing through your veins, but you know the right thing to do. And we are here encouraging you to take that step.
Just start doing it.
We've talked about resistance a lot, and that comes from the book, The War of Art. Link down below. Affiliate link. I don't know how to do that. That'd be funny, though. The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield? Sheffield?
so.
Mr. Sheffield? From The Nanny?
Stephen Pressfield.
Pressfield. Great book.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lucas recommended it to me during the pandemic. It was a big motivator for me.
Me too. So check it out if you're like, hey, you guys said something that has a nugget of wisdom. It's probably from that book. Go read the book and you'll be actually inspired.
And the thing that I found most useful about it was, because if you've listened to this point, your resistance is already kicking in and making new rationalizations of like, okay, fine, it's easy. I can do it. My actions drive my feelings. It's going to have to come up with a new one now at this point. And probably the new one is like, but where do I start? Now you've given me too many things to think about. You know, like, oh, like, what do I do now? Might as well not do anything. No, here's the new one. And ditch the rest. Part of the point this guy makes in the book is like, everyone knows what resistance feels like. You can use them as a compass. Use them as a compass. They're pointing you towards the thing to do.
Yeah, it's pulling you away from the thing you want to do most.
Whatever it is telling you not to do, that's the thing to do.
Yeah.
So start with that. Ask yourself, which part of this am I most resisting? If it's learning to edit, start there. If it's jumping on a trend, if I said that and you were like, never, do that. Use it as a compass. Wherever it tells you not to go, that's where you go.
Speaking of, I think it's a great transition point because the area that I feel the most resistance from is stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
It's that like I feel so scared, even though I do all this
Absolutely.
other stuff. I'll do improv, go on stage, not know what I'm gonna do, just
Totally
goof and
fine.
fart, totally fine, enjoying myself. But the idea of doing stand-up is such a scary thought.
100%. Totally agree. And Lucas is even less scared of it than I have. At least he's done it.
I've done it.
I've never even done
Once.
But that's one more than me. I've never even tried. And this is with all this advice we're giving you. This is an area that we're like, this is good. You're right. Let's figure out what's our resistance. Let's do it a live action. We want to do stand up, Lucas. What do we do?
Yeah, I think the first thoughts that come up to my head is if I fail, it's all on me. You know, it's like if I bomb, I'm the only one to blame, and then I'm in front of everybody.
So where do your feelings of bombing being bad come from?
I think it's
I think for me, it's just the way everyone talks about it.
I think so. I was going to say, I was like,
Everyone says it's awful.
every comedian is like, hey, and it's not that it's bad, it's that it's inevitable.
It's inevitable, and a lot of them go like, it's the worst feeling.
So I think I've kind of scared myself by doing so much research on comedians, listening to podcasts. I'm listening to, what's with Sam Jones? Off camera?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, every comedian's like, it's the worst feeling in the world. You want to kill yourself, and it happens. It's going to happen to you.
So let's break that down. I've never done this before, but let's think about that.
Yeah, we're breaking it down live.
Is that real? We've got these comedians because we've got resistance. Our resistance is looking for evidence to rationalize itself so that we don't do the scary thing because it thinks it's dangerous. That's what's sweet about resistance.
It's trying to
It's
take care
just
of
trying
us.
to take care of you. It's like, don't go up on that stage. Haven't you heard all the scary stories about how bad it is to bomb?
Yeah.
Don't go up there. I'm trying to help you, buddy.
Yeah, it's like if you know like a door, like, hey, don't open that door. Someone's gonna punch you in the dick if you open that door.
Have you heard all the stories?
Yeah.
So it's gathered all this evidence, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of comedians who unfortunately talk about it this way. But there are comedians who don't. For example, Jerry Seinfeld talks about First time he went on stage, he bombed. He doesn't talk about it like it was a negative feeling. He got the bug. He goes, I bombed and it was the best.
Yeah, he did talk about that recently where he was saying like he forgot everything.
Yeah,
he
he
didn't
forgot
say
everything he
a
was gonna
single
say.
joke.
So he bombed horribly.
He loved it.
Loved it. We got Norm Macdonald. Norm Macdonald bombed on purpose. He liked to bomb. That was part of the fun for him. And people love Norm Macdonald. So there's counter evidence out there from also well-respected comedians. Also two very, very, very big comedians. Jerry Seinfeld, arguably one of the biggest comedians. He's the richest comedian.
Tens.
Yeah.
Tens in the book.
These are tens. And these are tens who are saying, hey, yeah, bombing is inevitable, but it's kind of fun. And it's what gave me the bug. So that's interesting. So now new resistance, what comes in? If it's not bombing, if you take their word for it and go, okay, I'm afraid of something that has point, counterpoint. Only way to find out where I'm going to land is to do it. What's the new resistance?
I got to think. What about you? You feel anything?
Yeah, for me, it's...
Yeah, instantly you got
Absolutely.
it.
For me, it's... I'm not worried about the bombing. I'm not worried about getting up on the stage. I'm worried about... I feel stuck in the pre-process. I don't know how to do it. Like, I feel like I don't know how to do it. I know that feeling is the same as with improv and sketch. You learn to do it by doing it. I recognize that. So my resistance, it's irrational, but the resistance is like, but how? How do you make a joke? Like, how do you structure? Like, what kind of comedian are you? Like, what's your voice? And so I'm stuck in the stage that he talks about in the book of like endless research.
Yeah. You're like, oh, I haven't written my perfect type 5 yet, and
Right.
so I can't start.
Absolutely. So that's where I'm at. The thing that's got me closer to doing it anyway is I took a clowning class, which was so fun. Highly recommend taking a clowning class, maybe even before improv.
Yeah, clowning is a great offset of improv in the sense gets you silly, gives you confidence.
Precursor to improv. Improv is really only a couple decades old. Clowning,
Ancient.
ancient art form. And what's cool about clowning is that, at least the class I took, I literally know nothing about this, but the class I took, the whole idea is like, you want the audience to like you. It's funny in that way. It's like kind of the opposite of how you're encouraged to think in stand-up and improv, like,
Don't be so needy.
don't focus on the audience so
Yeah.
much. Clowning's like, of course you want the audience to like you. You're clown, baby. You eat laughs. Like, you want them to laugh at you. You want them to like you. So really focus on them. Like, listen. Clowns will go up on stage with no material. That's what they had us do. Like, just get on stage and make us laugh. And you can't rely on words. Like, don't use any crutches. Just do little things. And when you hear us laugh, do more of it. And if we laugh again, keep going. And then if we stop laughing, do something else. Do something else. So it's really, really cool because it's like, hey, Gabe, you don't need to know how to do anything. You just need to literally put yourself on stage. And when you hear anyone go, do whatever you just did again, only louder or faster or slower or weirder.
In a different way, yeah.
Try to get another laugh and just follow these laughs. And I think that is what stand-ups are doing when you watch them. They're really tuning into their audience. They just have material that they're working with. They're going, I wrote this sentence. I'm going to get on stage, I'm going to say it. And if I hear a laugh over here, I'll know, okay, there's something in this sentence. And they'll elaborate, get a bigger laugh, and boom, now you're working on your material. So yeah, I just got over the resistance for myself.
Yeah, I think we're doing an open mic
yourself
tonight. That being said, if you're at a 0 and you're like, hey, I want to start doing stand-up, me and Gabe have seen a lot of stand-up.
Yes.
And not just from 10s or 7s or 5s even. We've seen a lot of 1s and 2s and 3s and
Yeah.
0s doing stand-up. And here's some advice that we'd maybe give you that'd be like, hey, these are common pitfalls whenever you're first starting to do stand-up. Or even if you've been doing stand-up for a while, that we see people make these mistakes and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Don't do that.
I think the first thing, and again, this is coming from someone who's never done it, is...
So all with a grain of salt, a big pinch of salt.
is when I go see an improv show as an audience member, I laugh even when it's not so funny. Truly. Because there's something else happening on stage even when it's not good, which is the joy of collaboration. You are watching people doing an exercise that is very enjoyable to watch even when it's bad because they're having fun together. They're trying to do something kind of difficult together. There's respect and admiration in that. There's a lot to latch on to when you're watching a group of people trying to do improv. It's like a feat. Sketch, same thing. They wrote it. They practiced it together. Maybe some of the nuggets are good, some of the lines. There's something to enjoy. Stand-up, when I'm in the audience as a stand-up audience member, I am the most judgmental of any other art form I watch. Just personally, do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, not in a
I'm more
negative way.
critical of
Not
it,
like
yeah.
mean. Just truly, my judgment is up. I am way more critical of a stand-up than I am of any other movies, TV shows, improv, clowning. Stand-ups, you're in a show, I'm critical of you. Why do you think that is?
I think it's just that everyone is billed as like, hey, this person's going to make you laugh.
Right.
Yeah, I think there's something about that. Just being like, whenever someone comes out and it doesn't seem thought through or like lazy or it's not funny, it feels worse to the audience because it's like, hey, you promised. Like improv is like, well, they're all making it up.
Yeah. Improv is like, if it's bad, you don't judge them.
Yeah, it's like,
You're like,
yeah, it's hard.
Of course this was bad.
Yeah, they didn't know what they were going to do.
Maybe that's too, is like when I watch sketch too that's not good, my feeling is still, oh, well, they like it. Like the sketch performers, it's their taste.
Yeah.
There's an audience out there who likes this, even if it's just them, and I'm glad they're enjoying it. So less critical from my end. Stand up, it's like your only job is to get me to laugh. So if I'm not laughing, if no one's laughing, it just becomes such an embarrassing experience.
Well, I think also is that one of the problems that we have with stand-up and one of the pitfalls we'll probably talk about is sometimes I get more defensive about not being like, I don't think it's funny because the comedian gets defensive.
They're commenting on it too much.
Yeah. Are they like turning aggressive towards the audience being like, oh, I guess you guys didn't think that was funny. It becomes like a confrontational relationship between the stand-up and the audience.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we want to talk about is that like, hey, don't alienate your audience and kind of come in with a little bit of clown mentality that you're like, hey, I want you guys to laugh more than anything.
And that if they're not laughing, it's your fault.
They think that if the audience isn't laughing, it's like, they don't get it.
Yeah. So one of the things they had us do in this clowning workshop, like before we did anything else, was one person would be on stage with a chair and another person would leave and go in a different room. And we as the audience would tell the person to get in a certain position. So they're like, all right, right arm on the chair, left arm on your hip, and kind of like cross your feet. And we'd look at it and go, okay, cool. That person would leave. Then the other person comes on as the clown. And we clap when they get closer to the position. So they go to the chair and they like sit and we're all silent. And they go, and then they stand up and they like put a hand on a chair. And we go, yeah! And they go, okay. And then they start to move their arm like clap, 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 not clap. Clap, 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 clap. Clap, 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 clap. Yeah, cheer, cheer, cheer. And then they get in the position. So that's the whole game. So if you substitute finding the position in a chair with finding the funny joke, I think that's what the stand-up process is. Mm-hmm. Your audience is a tool. Mm-hmm. Your audience is your barometer of like whether your material's working.
Yeah.
So that's something too that can get you over bombing, I think, is the idea of like, of course I'll bomb. Bomb is just a dumb word for it. I'm using the audience as a tool. I'll say my joke. If it gets no laughs, don't go, well, you guys didn't think that one was funny.
Yeah, they're telling you.
They told you it's not funny. And don't alienate them by like making them feel bad for not enjoying the material you're working on.
They're actually helping you in the long run because you need to work on that material. You need to scrap that or move on. There's nothing there.
I love comedians who do that on purpose, like Norm Macdonald or, I know he's not, we all know, but Louis C.K. I know. But in terms of craft, a piece of advice he does is similar. And it's not just him, it's other comedians too, of intentionally going too far with a joke in one direction or the other to see where the lines are. Tom Segura does that too, of like, where's the boundary? All right, they're laughing here when I say this thing. So if I escalate it, and they stop laughing. So this is my spot. So yeah, if you're thinking of the audience as like your tool while you're working on the material, as opposed to the thing you need to entertain, I think that's better. And
don't think of the audience as your enemy.
Right. They are useful.
Any other pitfalls you think in stand-up or anything advice you would give to start stand-ups?
You know what's funny is the advice of imitate what you like ironically makes me judge you more when I'm watching you as a stand-up, but I still think it's the right advice. You should start by imitating who you like until you start to find your own voice. But when I'm watching you do it, It's so annoying. It's like, God, everyone talks about vegans. Like, it's the same material every stand-up we see. They're talking about sex, talking about vegans, talking about... And then, but they also talk about the same mundane things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's like a mundane thing you see all the time?
I don't know. It'd be like, my grandparents are old, and it's like, yeah, they're your grandparents. Yeah, I totally get that. Like,
Yeah.
trying to find, like, your own perspective on things.
Yeah.
And I think what a lot of young people do when they talk about sex during stand-up is like, hey, I'm going to be the guy that says the grossest thing.
Yeah. Because it gets laughs, but not the laughs they think it is.
Yeah.
Because, like, this ties back to my thesis. When I did my thesis on why God has a sense of humor.
No sex jokes.
No sex jokes.
No, I'm just kidding.
I was, actually there are. I was learning about, like, I was trying to figure out, like, what comedy is from a scientific perspective, like why we laugh. So one of the kind of, like, theories is it's about incongruity. So you set up a premise with an expectation, and then you break the expectation in a surprising way. Think Looney Tunes. The road runner runs through the tunnel, and then the coyote runs up the tunnel, smack. The entrance to the tunnel was just a poster. Yeah. So, and it makes us laugh because it gave us a logical expectation based on how things work in the world, and then a funny reversal or, denial of the expectation. So our expectation when you're making a joke about sex is that you won't say the most disgusting thing you've ever said.
Yeah.
So when you do, we're not laughing because you're clever. We're not laughing because you had a funny observation. We're laughing because you broke an expectation societally. And we laugh because that's just our instinct. It's our instinct.
Yeah.
And I think comics do that and think, oh, that material's working. It's like, no, you're just like doing the equivalent of like slipping on a banana peel.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, we laughed. You found the easiest laugh in the world.
You said the worst thing.
Yeah.
And I can't believe that you, a human being, said that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Usually when I laugh at that, it's because I'm like, I can't believe you think that's funny. And then I give them the laugh.
And then the problem is they'll take that laugh and be like, I should do this 5 more times. I should do 5 more jokes exactly like this. And then those jokes all bomb.
Yeah.
And then they're like, do you guys liked the...
And then they get mad at their audience. They're like, I know this material works.
Yeah. You guys laughed at the
laughs.
first one. Never say to your audience, oh, you guys don't like that? Or just don't comment on if you're not doing good.
Yeah. There's only one way I think it works. I saw a comedian recently who did a very funny bit and she was having a good show. I was really enjoying the show, but it was just a small audience. And also, I think half the audience didn't know what they're there to see. It was just one of those nights.
Yeah. We should also say the quick note about that. Audiences are getting worse across the board in every media.
There are a lot of variables here.
The media literacy is way down, so bear with that.
So even with all these comments about like donating late night, there will be audiences that are just terrible. So I thought she was having a good show, but there weren't big raucous laughs at some of her written material. And she did a very funny thing where she turned around and like put her arm like on the back of the stage and just went, do you guys even like stand-up? And it was really funny because it was very honest and it was the only time she'd done it. Mm-hmm. When I see it done poorly, it's because you're doing it the whole time. You're commenting on like every joke that doesn't land. You're making a comment about it. So if you're doing stand-up, just don't do that.
Just don't do that.
It just makes everyone feel awkward. And then they don't laugh at you as much.
Yeah, and then they keep commenting on it.
And then they laugh less.
And then they go home and they go,
God, the fucking audience sucks,
man. They don't fucking know anything.
They don't get it.
I'm not going to change a single joke. And they don't. And so that's the advice we'd give a stand-up from 2 people who...
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Has done 1 open mic. Woohoo!
Well, here, Lucas, pull out your phone.
No.
Do one of your jokes.
Okay, here we go.
This is what Lucas has learned, by the way. He was telling me the other day because I was asking for advice. It's like, how do you even get your stand-up joke ideas? And it's the same as with the sketch and the improv. Mm-hmm. You do it, you get it.
And
the muse comes when you're working, baby.
That's true. And I also got started because I was copying people.
There you go.
I was copying Steve Martin.
There you go. Maybe that's the trick. With stand-up, copy people old.
Yeah, copy people that they don't see all the time.
Yeah. What, you're not going to do it?
Oh, I'll just do, like, one of my bits is, like, after I ask how everybody's doing, I say, like, I'm not doing so great. Because there was like a mishap with like the scheduling, and like I don't want to beat up the person, but like I was supposed to be soaking wet for this joke, and now by the time I got up here, I'm completely dry. So this joke's not gonna work. So, but I have to do it anyway. So just bear with me. And I turn around and I go, fucking wet. And I turn back around and go, excuse me, comedy club owner, I think there's a leak in your ceiling. And then before the audience laughs or reacts, I go over to my notebook and I'm laughing. Like that joke killed. And then I write in my notebook, I go, that one works dry. Because I'm like playing with the form in a way that's saying like, I don't care what the audience's reception of this really bad joke is because the joke's not funny. Uh-huh. It's like playing with the fact that like this comedian thinks he's killing it. So I'm like playing a character.
It's genius. You're a genius.
Wow. Thank you.
But yeah, if you're scared to do stand-up, just make it perfect.
Yeah, just think of a foolproof plan where it doesn't matter what the audience says. Yeah. It's funny regardless.
Exactly.
Okay, that's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about punching up versus down?
Sure.
Just in a general sense, this is just like in comedy, you generally want to punch up. If someone has to be the butt of the joke, I'm saying in a general sense, we can get more into it. You usually want to punch up. If someone is the butt of the joke, you want it to be someone who usually has more power than you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it? Would you say is that?
Yeah, I think so. What's relevant to us and relevant to you as you're starting out, or if you're already doing it, is there's not really a better way to put it, but like what gets you in trouble. I think it is good to think about your audience. It is good to, because if your goal is to connect and entertain, it's not like a cop-out to be careful with your words or be careful with your material. And I think everybody instinctually knows that. Mm-hmm. There are topics that we don't joke about. Like even these people who are like, you can joke about anything, there are absolutely things they don't joke about because they're not funny. Yeah. They might be funny. Sometimes people can crack a code and find a way to make something really dark or really taboo genuinely funny and insightful. It is absolutely possible. But there are topics that we just like.
You don't have to name one.
You know what I mean.
But I'm saying like, yeah, like even like someone like Anthony Jeselnik.
I was just about to say
it. But he's got so much craft.
Yeah, he's doing it very specifically.
Yeah, he's doing it very specifically. And I think when you're first starting, if you're punching down on people who have less power than you, it seems lazy. Or it seems like kind of cringe because it's low-hanging fruit. You're like, yeah, that's the person that is shit on by life.
Yeah. Here's part of it too, is like people incorrectly assume that everyone else sees things the way you see things generally. And I think they underestimate just how different their own perspective might be from other people's perspectives. For example, our friend Caroline recently found out that she can't picture things in her head. That's a very different way of seeing the world than people who can picture things in their head. That's just one example. So the reason I say that is because you might be underestimating the context an audience has for your joke. Me and Lucas, in the privacy of our home, we've known each other for years. I know where Lucas stands on issues. I know his intentions. I know his heart. So when he makes a joke that he would probably never tell on stage, not because it's like cancelable or cringy in a way, but just because it's like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there are things you say with your friends that you wouldn't say to a stranger because a stranger doesn't know you. They might not know that you're joking. Like I could say something really horrible or dark to Lucas for an effect, if nothing else than to just like shock him as we're making breakfast. And he knows what I'm doing. Like he knows what that's about. The reason I wouldn't say it to a stranger is not because I think that the joke is wrong to make. It's because that stranger doesn't know me, and it's really easy to misinterpret where a joke is coming from.
Yeah, I think a great example is like something in our content house, Egg Party. We have 3 boys, 3 girls. And a piece of internet culture that people really like to do is say women aren't funny. Mm-hmm. And that's a general held belief by people. But we will say that to each other, ironically, because we're making fun of the people who say that.
Yeah, we'll be like, yeah, that's a great example.
And so without context, we in the house can say, women aren't funny.
Yeah.
Caroline can say that, Yeah. One of us can say it and we understand the context.
Yeah.
But if we went out to a stranger and all we said was women aren't funny, that is a held belief by people.
Yeah.
And if it's not clear that you're doing a character
are doing a bit or it's part of a structure. That's why you're right about craft. Like Anthony Jeselnik knows how to couch things so that it's understood that he doesn't believe what he just said. And he's not advocating for what he just said. If anything, his comedic style is playing with language and expectations. Mm-hmm. Intentionally, he's doing what bad comics are trying to do and missing the point of. And it's a really specific kind of comedy. It's also not the kind of comedy I particularly like watch or do myself, but I recognize it. A good example is me and Tiffany do a song called Age is a Number. So we wrote a comedy song because we wanted to make something based off like early 2000s songs that are just like kind of fucked up in the lyrics, or like the take. Like, they just didn't age well.
Yeah, or it's like, but there's so many songs back in the day are like, I love you, high school girl.
She was just 17.
You're like,
like,
what the hell?
Like stuff like that, and it just doesn't age well, and it's a product of its time. So we were like, all right, let's make like kind of a parody of that. So we want to write like a post-punk song or like a pop punk song that did that, and kind of the angle we took was like, oh, we'll make it about like a creepy like 30-year-old guy who's like dating a 17-year-old high schooler who's like about to turn 18, and it's like them like being like, this is fine. We wrote it and we were like, okay, we think people understand the satire here, but we recognize that like if we just come out and do the song, we're not giving the audience any context for where we're at as the creators of the song. Are we like, do we think this is funny because we hold these beliefs, or do we think it's funny because we hold these beliefs? Why that's important is not about woke culture. It's not about like anything like that. It's from a comedy perspective, it helps to know where the comedian is coming from so that you understand what they think is funny about the joke, because then you'll get it more. So we start that song by telling the audience, hey, like, we're going to go off stage. We need all of you to go encore, and we're going to come back on stage. And we come on as characters, and we establish that we're touring. It's 2003, and that this song is the audience's favorite song. It's what made us famous. And by couching it in that, it just makes the joke land way better. It sets it the way we intended it. And no one can be like, why did you write that creepy like pedophilia song? It's like, that's not what we were doing. Yeah. We were commenting on a very specific type of art that we all just used to think was okay.
Despite how carefully you craft it, you got to understand when you're doing comedy that you are relinquishing control over that narrative, and you can't control what every single person thinks of your stuff.
Totally.
And that people are going to wildly misinterpret your stuff sometimes.
100%.
Like, especially like we did a sketch. You wrote it like is American Wizard.
Right.
And to us, what we think is funny about that, and what we're calling out, is that the American Wizard is not a good guy.
No.
But people think we're saying like, some people think like we are actually condoning the American Wizard character.
I don't know what. Yeah, it was specifically because of a line that the American Wizard says to the Draco Malfoy character. Like he makes like a homophobic joke towards him, like very briefly. And in the context of the sketch, no one is saying it's okay that he did that. In fact, all the characters are like, huh? Like we intentionally made it like a confusing thing for this guy to say. Mm-hmm. But it's because we were trying to create a character that, if anything, you could say that we were being too shallow towards American stereotypes. But that was what we were doing on purpose. We were like, let's just throw in a bunch of stereotypes, some that don't even make sense, to this American, like, podunk wizard character. And what's interesting is that there are people who just, the fact that anybody said that joke, the assumption was that we, as the writers, advocate that.
Yeah, like we think that's okay to say, but we're saying like, no, this bad character is saying it.
Right.
He's also shooting people.
Yeah.
And people are like, hell yeah, he's shooting people. And we're like, no, we're saying like, that's a representation of America, is that he's solving the problems through gun violence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, people
take it how they take it.
It's really misconstrued, but it's like, you can't give them all that context. You're like, I think it was clear through how we made it, but
yeah,
you can't control everyone else's media literacy, and you can't also let that reflect on you.
Absolutely. And that's just part of these art forms. It's like part of the risk is that, yeah, people might not get it, and some people really might assume the worst intentions of you. I think that's lame. I think it's media literacy mostly. I think this didn't used to happen as much, because part of what comedy is as an art form, it's sort of like poker. You know, like we all agree that like lying is wrong, but you're allowed to lie in poker. It's part of the game. and you consent to that part of the game by playing it. Comedy, we implicitly are consenting to allow this person or these individuals to talk about things that you don't talk about in polite society, to make comments, jokes, references that if you did them at a dinner table, they don't land. It's part of the bargain. It's like, we want you guys to play with these subjects. So it's weird that we punish attempts to do that, but I think it's a pendulum that swings one way or the other, where it's like, there are some people where it's like, it goes back to where we were talking about these bad stand-ups, where it's like, you aren't doing it like as a craft.
Yeah. There's like, oh, you're doing this in bad faith.
Yeah, you're doing it because it gets attention. You're doing it because it like actually is appealing to like the worst of our culture. We kind of got a taste of that when we did that gaslighting video. I remember thinking like, the idea for that video was like, oh, people use the word gaslighting a lot, like just all the time. And it's actually a really like powerful word when used correctly. So it's just funny that they use it all the time. So we just made a sketch about that, where a character was like just using gaslighting to mean everything. And what we didn't anticipate was that half the audience was like, every liberal, man, woke call, you guys nailed it. Like, big right-wing celebration of the sketch, and the other half, big left-wing celebration of the sketch, of people who were seeing it the way we intended, of like, yeah, use this word carefully, because there are people who actually use this as manipulators. There are people who like, don't just throw this word around. So both took it from their perspective and thought we were on their team. And it made me realize, I was like, oh my God, you could do this on purpose. In fact, that's probably what these people are doing.
Yeah.
They're intentionally writing material that both sides of an aisle will think is for them. And by doing that, they're actually creating like more division. We did it on accident.
There's honestly like only like a couple comedians who I feel like do that, but don't create more division.
Right.
You know, like, remember when we saw Bill Burr?
Yeah.
And there's sometimes you're watching Bill Burr and he's awesome, but you're like, wait, where's this going? And then you twist it and you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Well, he does a good job of like, he'll play with the fact that he's dividing you. And then the end of the joke is, we're all the same.
Yeah.
Like, we all, like, you think this, and you think that. Don't we all kind of just think this? And you're like, I think we do all kind of just think that.
He's like looking at the bell curve. He's like, this side. Well, most of us are right here, right? Yeah. But he plays around with that.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting off, I'd avoid it.
It's like being a stuntman. Just stunts are dangerous enough on their own. Like, it's okay to do stunts that are, will be relatively safe with a little bit of risk. You don't need to set yourself on fire and jump over a canyon. Like, some of this material, some of these jokes, especially when you're starting off, you'll think you're getting laughs because you're nailing it, but you're probably just getting laughs because people can't believe you've been touching these subjects, and it breaks their expectation, and they can't help but laugh. And if you can't recognize the difference, you'll become something you don't want to be.
We want to have long comedic careers.
Be intentional.
Be intentional.
We're
not saying cancel culture.
Can't say anything
these days.
Say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Just don't.
Just don't, though. Like.
You can jump off any cliff you want.
Yeah, there's consequences.
There's consequences if it's a little more dangerous than others.
And don't say we told you so.
Yeah.
Don't be like, hey, I listen to this podcast. I can say whatever I want.
I can say whatever I want.
I think that's great advice. Anything else you got going on?
No, well, let's end with an improv scene.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do a short improv scene. All right, it's the improv section. Do you want just a random word?
Yeah.
We're going to show you how good
if this isn't good, you can disregard the entire episode.
Strike it from the record. Strike it from your memory. The word is wedding.
Ooh.
Oh. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on the weekend to give me this, little speech pathology lesson. I'm just nervous about saying I do.
I just want you to be prepared for any sound the audience might make. Let's just do a couple more.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
I see. That's what the one I'm scared of the most. I wish you wouldn't start with that.
Well, to be fair, we started with ooh, ah, and oh.
Okay, I see how you're warming it
But
up.
you see, your perspective, you're so clouded in fear that you don't even remember the positive exercises we've been doing. You jump straight to the negative.
Do you think this is a good idea?
What?
Should I be
getting
married?
I'll tell you what I tell all my clients. Not my business, not my monkeys, not my circus.
Okay.
Not my barrel, not my problem.
It just seems like you know some of the history, because...
The history of marriage, of course.
No, I'm saying like...
Back in settler days.
That's important. But no, I'm saying like circus stuff.
Uh-huh.
I'm scared about marrying a trapeze artist. What if they die? And every day I'm at home cooking, cleaning, taking care of the children, rearing them, and I'm afraid my husband is going to fall to his death.
Well, you should have thought about that before you said, I do want to marry you. And before you say, I do.
I was caught
But we're
up.
not here to talk about the ethics or should I make a good decision about marrying a trapeze artist? I don't even care that your husband is a trapeze artist. I care about the speech you're going to give between everybody coming in after the reception and the other speeches. All right?
Yeah.
You got 2 minutes. We can do this. Let's do a couple more reactions. No thanks. Oh. Nice job.
I like that last one.
That was your mom.
Wow.
Okay. So let's go from the top of the speech. You come out. Do that joke I told you to do.
Oh my gosh. I'm just worried I'm going to stutter right through it.
Just try.
Hey, everybody.
Oh, that's nice. Just in case your mom says
Yes,
that.
okay. I hope nobody misses
Uh-oh.
the old...
You got to be ready for these
reactions.
reactions.
Right in the middle of my joke?
You need to be prepared for any reaction between any part of your joke. Start from the top.
Okay. Hey, everybody.
Woo!
I hope no one misses
Uh-oh.
the old Miss Alexandra.
That's nice.
Because now I'm Mrs.
I don't know about that.
Grover.
Okay. How'd that feel?
Nobody laughed in that scenario.
No. But you need to be prepared for that.
You're saying I'm going to get there and I'm going to bomb?
You might bomb. But it's okay. It's your wedding.
I don't want to bomb at my own wedding. This is supposed to be the happiest day of my life.
It's already all about you. If you bomb, that's just part of the experience. Look,
Can you go around and tell everybody to laugh at the Mrs. joke?
of course I'm going to tell everybody to laugh at every joke, okay? I'm going to go around with a little clipboard, and I'm going to mark whether or not they agreed to laugh or not, and after the wedding's
But
done,
don't give them an option not to.
I have to give them an option. It's the law.
Oh my gosh.
This is America. You cannot force people to laugh at a joke at your wedding if they don't consent.
Oh, sorry. I didn't know the ethical police was a speech pathologist.
Wow. You know, I'm already going above and beyond as a speech pathologist by coming to your wedding.
I know, on
walking
the
around with a
weekend.
clipboard on a weekend, making sure people consent to your jokes. Okay? So you're on thin ice, pal. You're on a tightrope.
Don't mention being up in the air right now. I have cold feet. You ever try to walk on a tightrope with cold feet?
Don't act like your cold feet has, and I'm stepping a little bit outside of my bounds here, but I don't think this has anything to do with your fear of your husband getting injured, all right? It's very safe to be a trapeze artist. They have nets, they have safety procedures, they spend their whole life training. If you don't want to marry this guy, I don't think it has to do with his job. I think it has to do with you. That's just my opinion. Why are you so afraid?
I'm afraid of being let down.
By who?
By people around me. But my parents got divorced.
No.
My grandparents got divorced. And I feel like it's going to be a family curse. And I'm going to let him down or he's going to let me down.
No.
Wait, was that close?
Yeah?
I'm going to let him down?
Yeah. You're afraid that you're going to let your husband down.
Oh my God.
Because you're not a good enough wife.
That's what I'm scared about. I guess I don't believe in myself.
Correct. That's one of the reactions, by the way. Start from the top.
Hey, everybody.
Correct.
I hope no one misses
Uh-oh.
the old Miss Alexandra.
That's nice.
And I hope that everyone loves the new Miss Grover.
Yeah! Yeah! Whoa, whoa, whoa! Oh! Oh! Nana! 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 Woo, woo, woo! Woo, woo, woo!
Everyone to this book. Everybody, we need to clear the area.
What?
Clear the area.
Officer, what's going on?
There's a gas leak.
What?
Everybody, in an orderly fashion, please make your way towards the exit.
Oh, it makes me want a cigarette.
Woo, woo, woo! It's the smoking police.
What?
Drop the cigarette.
Why?
Because it's against the law.
Oh, come on. I didn't know the ethics police were on the gas police or smoking police.
The Essex please.
Oh my gosh.
I heard somebody's been a naughty girl.
Well, I have a little bit.
And then the strippers come. All right, listen. I think your wedding's perfectly planned. To the beat.
Thank you.
The only thing that you need to ask yourself right now is the only thing we all need to ask ourselves. What are we doing here? What's the point of life?
I think it's to love. And not just other people, but ourselves.
Oh, that's nice.
And scene. Wow.
There you go.
So I guess we kind of prove that improv is pretty fundamental.
Pretty fun. Pretty fundamental. Fun. The mental.
Awesome. Just to wrap things up, a last thing you want to say to me?
No.